Out of this winter season, which I think has a podcast episode that is currently lost somewhere in the void, what is the most Chad show? Is it that one show where that dude has tons of sex but is actually a seething incel at heart? Is it that show where this fat perverted NEET becomes a child in Isekai land and sexually harasses women? Is it that one show where the dude kisses his childhood friend in a totally not sexual way and then non-consensually removes her tits from her chest? Okay, there's some strange fucking shows this season. It's none of those. It's none other than Back Arrow, an action-adventure romp that takes you across the world of Ring Arindo, a land surrounded by an insurpassable wall, on a big-ass, cool-ass ship with mechs and zany characters. Back Arrow, the titular character, came in a capsule from beyond the walls, and his only goal is to return to the outside. With this simple but compelling premise, we get to see how him and his companions from a backwater village develop and move through this ever-evolving world on the brink of an all-out war. With all this, the show has a 5.69 on my anime list, and currently has one of the lowest view counts of the season, with worse numbers than a show like Skate Leading Stars. Look, I know I've been on the outs with Studio Phone given my ongoing still only one part series shitting on their adaptation of Karakuri Circus. But come on, this show kicks my ass. I saw promise in the Karakuri Circus adaptation, and when I saw that they were spending this long doing a 2-core original anime series, I knew that even if it wasn't going to be good, the boys at Vaughn were cooking up something interesting for us. And that's the thing, it is good. There's something super refreshing about the tone it takes and feels very 2000s-esque with its aesthetic and its appeal. Not to mention that Studio Vaughn actually made fully animated opening themes for the show, the first one gaining additional scenes as the story progresses, which is all I've ever wanted from this studio since the Karakuri Circus adaptation had every opening and ending theme either reuse footage or use CG. Back Arrow himself seems kind of like a boring protagonist at first, but his energy carries the show in an interesting way, especially given how the villagers react to him. Back Arrow came from beyond the walls being treated as god in one of the dominant cultures, and as an insurmountable mystery by the other. As such, not only does his personality help propel the show forward, his presence fundamentally changes the dynamic of the world, and he is ubiquitously a person of interest, for better or for worse. The villagers start out kinda bland, but you really become endeared to them over the course of the show. They have fun personalities for the situations they find themselves in, and you really start sympathizing with them given this position they've suddenly been thrust into. I see it a lot like a show like Log Horizon, where initially it seems like a bunch of shit is being thrown at you, but as you continue to see these characters navigate through situations, you really start to understand their purposes in the story, and get used to their presence and designs. The mech designs also seem kind of lame at first, being these somewhat generic, unwieldy CG models that don't seem to have much rhyme or reason to them, since the rules established are very broad and they can be summoned at any point so long as someone has an armband. To dispel fear regarding the fact that these models are CG, you have to remember that this is Studio Vaughn, so the CG looks fucking incredible. Additionally, you start to appreciate the way the mechs are utilized in the story, and that they really are just extensions of the characters more than they are mechs. Now, I haven't seen them used like this, but when they walked into a politician's office in episode 6, I was expecting Back Arrow to pull an Eren Yeager. Even without something as hardcore as that, I like how the mechs develop over time in a way reminiscent of both Code Geass and Gurren Lagann. Them being similar to the former and making steady progressions ability-wise, and like the latter by having fun ass pulls in the middle of fights. Did I mention the show has the writer from Gurren Lagann and the director of Code Geass? I was ready to write these two off as hacks, given their shoddy work over the past few years and since the director was working on a different show concurrently this season. However, I feel the show really brings out a similar tone to Code Geass and has the same spark of Gurren Lagann at times, especially with what we know of the walls that surround this world. I expect the series will go through some radical change in the second half where it becomes about fighting the people beyond the walls, so I'm excited to see that. Also, did I say that this show is actually pretty funny? Along with the last Dungeon Isekai, this season has been pleasantly surprising in terms of actual laugh-out-loud comedy. One thing that cracked me the fuck up was the Sparkly Pretty Boys episode. I was hype as fuck that this was an episode concept that they both thought of and included. But I remember one bit where the dumbass of the group remarks how beautiful the first boy they find is, which causes his love interest, a girl who's typically quiet and kind, to react with an expression of genuine concern. Little bits of humor like this keep the show lively and enjoyable, and the show itself can get away with a lot of stupid things thanks to this generally light tone. One stupid thing that bothered me early on was that the villains were cartoonishly evil, but as the show goes on, it sort of recontextualizes these characters in a more palatable way. For example, the bandit from episode 1 who fucks up the village ends up being a pretty regular dude who has just found himself in this line of work, and we see him humble himself in front of his nation's princess. The government bozos who try killing off the village in episode 3 are revealed to just be worried for their own country's safety, where they portray a larger nation that wants the village dead. The show is willing to rope back in and redeem characters who seemed obnoxious at first, making it feel like these are actual people who just happen to be caught in a negative light at one point. So yeah, the show is kind of all over the place, kiddie, and sometimes downright stupid, but it's written with an understanding and intent. I watched the first 12 episodes and I'm excited to watch the second half when it finishes airing. I really don't know why this has a low score. It really does feel similar in tone to other beloved series such as Log Horizon, Code Geass, and Gurren Lagann. I think a lot of non-getters just saw this show in a season oversaturated with sequels and thought, that's stupid, and didn't bother giving it a second thought. If you passed over the series before, or if you just want a fun old school adventure show, I would heavily recommend giving this a genuine try. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this, albeit as infrequently as I end up uploading them, consider subscribing. Additionally, I have a Twitter, so if you want to get a closer look at the machinations on my mind, consider following me there. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.